John William Coltrane emerged from the humble beginnings of Hamlet, North Carolina on September 23, 1926, into a world that he would one day fundamentally reshape with the power of his saxophone. Raised in a deeply religious household in High Point with both of his grandfathers serving as ministers, the seeds of spirituality were planted early in his life. These roots would later blossom profoundly in his music, providing a guiding light through periods of immense personal and creative struggle. His early years were also marked by significant tragedy. A devastating series of deaths in 1938, including his father and grandparents, left a lasting mark on the young boy, instilling a sense of solemnity that would echo in the depths of his later musical explorations. This foundation of faith and loss created a complex emotional landscape from which his art would grow. The family's move to Philadelphia in 1943 was a pivotal moment, a transition that placed a teenage Coltrane at the epicenter of a vibrant and evolving jazz scene. It was here, for his 17th birthday, that his mother gifted him his first saxophone, an alto. This instrument became his constant companion and his primary means of expression. The true catalyst for his journey, however, came on a fateful night in June 1945, when he witnessed the bebop pioneer Charlie Parker perform. The experience was nothing short of an epiphany for Coltrane, who later described it as a force that hit him right between the eyes. He saw in Parker's virtuosic, lightning-fast improvisations a new language, a new possibility for what jazz could be, setting him on a relentless quest to find his own unique voice. To sidestep being drafted into the Army, Coltrane chose to enlist in the U.S. Navy in August 1945. Stationed at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, his musical development continued even in the structured environment of military life. He managed to join the base's swing band, the Melody Masters, demonstrating his undeniable talent and dedication. It was in Hawaii that his first informal recordings were made in 1946, capturing the nascent sounds of a musician on the brink of discovery. This period, though brief, provided him with invaluable experience and discipline. Upon his discharge, he returned to Philadelphia with a renewed focus, eager to immerse himself fully in the world of jazz and armed with the GI Bill to fund his formal music education under the tutelage of theorist Dennis Sandol. His professional career began to take shape as he toured with various rhythm and blues bands, including those led by icons like Eddie Cleanhead Vinson and Earl Bostic. It was during his time with Vinson's group that he made the crucial switch from alto to the tenor saxophone in 1947, the instrument that would become synonymous with his legendary sound. These early gigs were a proving ground, forcing him to hone his skills and learn the art of performance night after night. He was absorbing everything around him, from the raw energy of R&B to the sophisticated harmonies of bebop, slowly but surely assembling the vast toolkit he would need to revolutionize the very fabric of American music and launch his ascent into the jazz pantheon. The mid-1950s marked a critical turning point in John Coltrane's career, as he stepped onto the world stage alongside two of the most formidable figures in jazz history. His first major breakthrough came in 1955 when he was hired by trumpeter Miles Davis to join what would become known as the First Great Quintet. This ensemble, featuring Red Garland on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Philly Joe Jones on drums, was a crucible of modern jazz. Within this group, Coltrane's playing style began to truly crystallize. He pushed the boundaries of his solos, exploring complex harmonic structures with a relentless intensity that stood in stark contrast to Davis's cool, minimalist approach. Their dynamic interplay created a tension and a beauty that defined the hard bop era for generations of listeners. Despite the musical brilliance of the Davis Quintet, this period was also fraught with personal turmoil for Coltrane. He was battling a deepening addiction to heroin and alcohol, a struggle that had begun to affect his reliability and performance. The inner demons he faced were immense, and in April 1957, Miles Davis was forced to fire him from the band. This dismissal, while a professional setback, ultimately became a catalyst for profound change. It forced Coltrane to confront the destructive path he was on, leading him to a period of intense self-reflection and a decision to quit his habits cold turkey. This moment of crisis was the dark night of the soul from which his spiritual and musical rebirth would eventually emerge with astonishing force. Freed from his addictions and with a renewed sense of purpose, Coltrane entered one of the most formative collaborations of his life. In the latter half of 1957, He began a legendary residency at the Five Spot Cafe in New York City with the idiosyncratic pianist and composer Thelonious Monk. Playing Monk's notoriously angular and challenging compositions night after night was like a graduate-level course in harmonic complexity. Monk encouraged Coltrane's exploratory instincts, giving him the space to develop his signature sheets of sound technique, a torrent of notes played in rapid, cascading succession. This period stretched his musical mind, forcing him to navigate intricate chordal puzzles and liberating his improvisational approach in ways he had never before imagined. The growth Coltrane experienced with Monk was immediately apparent when he rejoined Miles Davis's band from late 1957 to 1960. He returned a changed man and a transformed musician, more confident and daring than ever. His contributions to seminal albums like Milestones and the modal masterpiece Kind of Blue are a testament to his evolution. During this time, he also recorded Blue Train in 1958, his only session as a leader for the prestigious Blue Note label. This album stands as a powerful statement of his prowess, a perfect synthesis of hard bop's bluesy earthiness and the sophisticated harmonic exploration that would become his hallmark, solidifying his status as a major new force in the jazz world. As the 1960s dawned, John Coltrane was ready to step out from the shadow of his mentors and establish himself as a band leader and visionary in his own right. He signed with Atlantic Records and released the groundbreaking album Giant Steps in 1960. The title track, with its dizzyingly complex and rapid chord changes, now famously known as Coltrane changes, served as a kind of final examination for jazz musicians of the era. It was a bold declaration of his compositional genius and technical mastery. He also began to popularize the soprano saxophone, an instrument that had been largely neglected in modern jazz. His hauntingly beautiful rendition of My Favorite Things from the 1961 album of the same name became a surprise commercial hit, showcasing a more lyrical and accessible side of his artistry. This era saw the formation of what is now revered as the Classic Quartet, a group that would become one of the most iconic and influential combos in music history. With McCoy Tyner on piano, Jimmy Garrison on bass, and the explosive Elvin Jones on drums, Coltrane found the perfect collaborators for his ever-expanding musical vision. The telepathic interplay between these four musicians was extraordinary. Tyner's powerful modal chords provided a dense harmonic carpet, Garrison's bass acted as a steadfast anchor, and Jones's polyrhythmic drumming created waves of percussive energy. Together they explored everything from tender ballads to ferocious avant-garde improvisations, creating a body of work that was both deeply rooted in tradition and relentlessly forward-looking. The culmination of Coltrane's spiritual journey and his work with the Classic Quartet arrived in December 1964 with the recording of A Love Supreme. This four-part suite was a direct expression of his profound gratitude and devotion to God, a musical testimony to the spiritual awakening that had saved him from addiction in 1957. In the album's liner notes, he wrote a personal prayer, explicitly stating that the music was a humble offering to the divine. The suite moves through movements titled Acknowledgement, Resolution, Pursuance, and Psalm, creating an arc of spiritual seeking, struggle, and ultimate praise. It is a work of breathtaking power and beauty, a perfect fusion of technical virtuosity and deep, heartfelt emotion. A Love Supreme became an instant classic and Coltrane's best-selling album, resonating with audiences far beyond the traditional jazz community. It transcended genre, becoming a touchstone for the 1960s counterculture and a universal statement of spiritual searching. The album's central motif, a simple four-note phrase chanted by Coltrane himself in the opening movement, is one of the most recognizable themes in all of jazz. The work cemented his legacy not just as a master musician, but as a spiritual guide whose music offered a pathway to a higher consciousness. It remains a monumental achievement, a deeply personal yet universally accessible masterpiece that continues to inspire and move listeners to this day. In the years following the monumental success of A Love Supreme, John Coltrane's music continued its relentless push forward into uncharted territory. He became increasingly fascinated by the burgeoning free jazz and avant-garde movements, drawing inspiration from iconoclastic musicians like Ornette Coleman and Albert Ayler. His own work grew more abstract, intense, and sonically dense. The 1965 album Ascension was a pivotal moment in this transition, featuring a large ensemble engaged in a single massive 38-minute piece of collective improvisation. This music was challenging, chaotic, and uncompromising, alienating some listeners while captivating others who saw it as the next logical step in the liberation of sound and spirit, a raw expression of the turbulent times. This radical new direction inevitably led to changes within his iconic quartet. The empathetic but structured playing of McCoy Tyner and Elvin Jones began to clash with Coltrane's increasingly free-form explorations. By early 1966, both had departed the band, making way for a new lineup that could better navigate these new sonic landscapes. Coltrane's wife Alice Coltrane took over on piano, bringing a more ethereal, harp-like quality to the ensemble. The powerful Rashid Ali became the primary drummer, his style less about keeping time and more about creating a continuous, shimmering texture of percussive sound. With the addition of saxophonist Pharoah Sanders, the group delved deeper into long, meditative, and often explosive improvisations that pushed the very limits of musical expression. Tragically, this final, exploratory phase of his career was cut short. John Coltrane passed away from liver cancer on July 17, 1967, at the age of just 40. His death sent shockwaves through the music world, silencing one of its most powerful and restless voices. Yet his influence did not wane, it only grew stronger in his absence. His tireless quest for innovation, his harmonic brilliance, and his profound spirituality left an indelible mark on countless musicians across genres, from jazz and rock to classical and electronic music. He had fundamentally expanded the vocabulary of the saxophone and redefined what was possible within a jazz improvisation, leaving a legacy of fearless creativity for future generations to follow. The spiritual dimension of his music inspired a unique and lasting tribute. In San Francisco, a congregation known as the Yardbird Temple began to incorporate his music and philosophy into their worship. This group eventually affiliated with the African Orthodox Church, officially becoming the St. John Coltrane African Orthodox Church, which canonized him as a saint in 1982. Today, St. John Coltrane is remembered not only as a revolutionary musician, but as a spiritual figure whose art provided a soundtrack for seeking and transcendence. His sound, from the intricate logic of giant steps to the divine praise of a love supreme, continues to echo, a timeless testament to a life dedicated to the relentless pursuit of truth through music.